welcome to the Global Webinar Series. This is the very first one of our year. We're going to be doing one webinar per month, and it will be in two parts. So we have two campaigns that we launched at the United Nations, sorry, not at the United Nations, at the conference, that was last year, at the conference this year at Howard University in Washington, D.C., the Gender Network, who will be hosting today's campaign forum, and the Oceans Forum. So you hopefully all have the schedule. I'm happy to share it with you later, but this is just to give you a sense of what the year is going to look like. In every webinar, there are two parts. So there's going to be the remote fellowship, which is part one, and the campaign forum, which is part two. So today, here is what the schedule is going to look like. For the first hour, I'm going to give a brief introduction to MCN, which I'm doing now, and welcome you all. And then I will turn it over to Emily Conran from N7, who's going to be talking about advocacy. And then for part two, we will have our gender campaign winners leading a conversation about gender and peace building. So it's going to be a really exciting session. I'm so thrilled that you all. And I know this is just going to be the beginning of an exciting year of learning for all of us. So one administrative note. So you all probably have discovered that there's a chat function in Zoom. So for our administrative needs, we would love to know that you're on this call. So if you can just write your name, your full name, and your email address and where you're calling from, that way we can just keep track of who is on the call. So you can send it directly to me as a chat, or you can do it to everyone, whatever you're comfortable with. But I'm going to just transfer that information into our documentation. So just a note to please do that. And if you don't, I will send you a chat at some point during the call to ask you to. So thank you in advance for that. So now just to back up a little bit, I think all of those of you who are on the call that I see have been to the conference. So I imagine you know a little bit about MCN, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, I wanted to share what our mission is. So our mission is to cultivate an ecosystem of ethical, effective, and engaged social impact leaders through networking university-level systems, providing programs for social transformation, and supporting opportunities to engage in advocacy. So what does that really mean? It means that we believe in you. We believe in the next generation of global development leaders, and we believe that you will be even stronger than the ones that have led us to this moment as a world. And so we want to support you to become more ethical, more effective, and engaged. And our programs, which include a conference, a fellowship, and campaigns, are all designed to support that process. So here is, it's a little hard to see. I made a little bit of a program calendar to give you a sense of how things work. So in the year, we start with a conference, and then in between the conference, we have a few things that go on. This spring, we're going to have a fellowship, which will be taking place in person in Miami, Boston, and New York City. It may also happen in other cities, depending on whether we have enough interest. So that's something that if you're curious to learn more about, I'd love to follow up with you. We also have these webinars. So part one is a remote version of the fellowship, which is sort of a light touch version of fellowship content, as well as conversations as part of the campaign. So this is one of the reasons we do these webinars, is to keep you all connected, and also to support you in the real advocacy work that you're doing on the ground, and keeping the network going among you. We also offer boot camps. So if any of you are in a university that would like us to come and share some of our programs, we would love to come to your campus and do programming with you, reflection, skill shares, advocacy training. So these are all things that I'd be happy to talk about more later. And then next year, we will have another conference. So this is just to give you a sense of how our programming looks over the year. So as I mentioned, we have our remote fellowship, which is going to be drawn from components of our main fellowship curriculum. This is what the curriculum looks like. It includes reflections, skills, networking opportunities, and I'm happy to share this with you if you're interested in learning more. I'm not actually going to share that in the interest of time. So we might be talking about things like advocacy, we might be talking about SMART goals and objectives, community organizing, budget, delegation, situational management. These are some of the things that we might be talking about over the course of these remote fellowship sessions, which is part one of the webinars. So get excited. Over the course of the year, you'll be developing some really important skills and learning from some incredible people like Emily. And if there's something that you are really excited to learn about, please let me know, because this should be of use to you. So if there's some skill or a conversation you'd like to be having, please reach out to me, and we'd love to address those interests and that curiosity. We are also going to be doing something called facilitated peer feedback. So this is basically a structure where if you're having a challenge in your organization, you can bring it to the global network, and we'll have a facilitated conversation where people can offer feedback. So on the next webinar, which is going to be in October, I'm going to give more of an introduction to what this structure looks like. And then starting at the next session in November, we will be doing facilitated peer feedback, but I'm just planting it right now. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily. Our very first session for the remote fellowship is about advocacy, and the reason is because this really frames that engaged side of our mission. And especially because we are launching our campaigns, what does it even mean to do advocacy work? And we're very, very fortunate to have Emily from N7 on the call to share. So I'm going to turn it over to you and stop my screen share so that you can have control. And in the meantime, I will be chatting you to make sure I get all of your information, and you can always chat me as well if you have questions. So with that, it's over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for having me today. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen as I talk. And let me see if I can make this full screen. Okay, can everyone see that okay on the screen? Look good? Everyone's seeing my screen. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm happy, by the way, if you have pressing questions while I'm talking and you want to put it in the chat bar or kind of wave and ask a question, that would be great, but I'll also definitely make sure to leave some time for questions at the end, so however you guys want to do it. So to start off with, before I jump into, what is advocacy? What does advocacy look like? I wanted to give a little personal anecdote, which is that my path to working in global health advocacy, which is what I do here at the Sabin Vaccine Institute in Washington, D.C., was a little unexpected in that I don't think I really understood what advocacy was when I was a college student, but I was very involved in global health and was really interested in perhaps pursuing a career in global health, but didn't exactly know what skills and what I could really contribute to the field, because I knew I didn't want to go to medical school. I knew I've never been a very technical person. It's funny that I'm so interested in global health because frankly, I never liked science very much as a student. And so I kind of got to my senior year a little bit stuck about what I was going to do next. And I'll never forget a conversation I had with one of my college mentors. And she was asking me, well, what are you good at? What's your unique skill? And I was really struggling to not just say the repetitive things like, oh, I'm a good writer, or I'm a good this or that. She's like, no, what are you specifically good at? And I thought about it and I was like, I think I'm good at getting other people to care about things that I care about. And that was a very vague answer, and she kind of laughed at it. But in retrospect, what I do now in my job as a global health advocate is really essentially getting other people to care about things that I care about. And that's both student supporters that are running N7 chapters at their universities, and I'll talk more about the N7 campaign later, but all the way to getting members of Congress to care about neglected tropical diseases, which is what I care about, and getting them to make specific decisions to really help us fight these diseases around the world. So just a story that as students, you might not completely understand what different careers and different parts of the field entail, but always try to find those pieces of yourself, those special talents that you have, and try to think creatively about how to connect those to a problem. So maybe you'll discover that you're good at getting other people to care about things, and maybe you'll decide to go into a career in advocacy. But obviously I'm getting ahead of myself because, first of all, I think we have to ask, why does advocacy matter? What's even the point of what we're talking about tonight? And I guess I would start by saying that especially as students interested in global health and development. And we talk a lot about having the power to change the world and to see the change we want in the world. And I think that's a great spirit to bring into this work, but I also think it's important to be humble and to be aware that really a relatively small number of people in the world really have the power to make immediate impact on problems that we care about in a big way. That's not to say we can't all do our part, but that's what policy is, right? The fact that we elect officials to make broad policies, to invest large sums of money, and these are really big decisions that make a big impact, and advocacy is the process of making sure that policymakers and our elected officials make decisions and act in such a way that we support and that supports our goals and our vision. So not to say that we don't all have the power to change the world, just that as most of us live in representative democracies, really what we've decided to do is to give a certain number of people a lot of power in order to kind of make things more efficient. So advocacy is just the process of making sure that those people act in a way that really represents us. So really, our real power, our power to change the world, lies in our ability to reach those people with a message that moves them to make the change we want. So to make that a little more specific, what are some examples of advocacy that's made an impact, and specifically grassroots advocacy, working with everyday people, oftentimes working with students like yourselves, grassroots advocacy campaigns that have really made an impact on big issues. And I picked 3 examples. There are millions, but 3 that immediately came to mind for me are in 2001, a Yale law student discovered that her university, Yale University, had done some key scientific research on a drug for HIV/AIDS patients. And this drug had later been licensed to a pharmaceutical company who was selling it and making enormous profit in sub-Saharan Africa. And unfortunately, very few people had access to this drug because it was so expensive. And this one Yale law student did some pretty tremendous things, and working within her university and also outside of it, she basically got this pharmaceutical company to lower the price of this drug, which triggered many, many, many more price reductions for HIV/AIDS drugs, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. So that's one student-driven effort that really has made a huge impact on global health. Another example, in 2012, the Sierra Club organized a campaign called Beyond Coal that harnessed citizen power and advocacy to block the construction or the expansion of 166 coal-fired power plants. And that's a great article there, by the way, in Mother Jones, how a grassroots rebellion won the nation's biggest climate victory. Definitely a cool article to check out if you're interested in environmental advocacy. And then you guys might remember this, but last summer, John Oliver, the very funny host of the show Last Week Tonight, focused on the net neutrality debate in one of his episodes. And at the end, after getting people very fired up about this issue, he urged people to go online to the Federal Communications Commission website and actually comments expressing their views on the net neutrality debate. Normally, I think the average number of public comments on a Federal Communications Commission website posting is probably like 12 people in the United States. And this time, hundreds of thousands of people submitted comments, mostly due to John Oliver's kind of awareness raising. He really helped the issue go viral, if you will. And as a result, the FCC ruled in favor of net neutrality, and a lot of people have credited, again, John Oliver and the viewers of his show with actually forcing that change. So a pretty cool and kind of fun example of grassroots advocacy. So to really get started in advocacy, I think there are 3 key questions you need to ask, and overall 4 things that you need to identify in order to really get started with this process and make a difference on something you care about. So the 4 things, I'm going to say all of them, and then I'll go through each of them in a little more detail. The first is a question. What's the problem? What is the specific problem you're trying to solve by making a specific change? And I think the word specific is important there. I'll come back to that in a second. Number 2, who's in charge? That's your advocacy audience, the institutions and individuals that have the power to make the change you want to happen. Really got to get specific about who in particular actually has the ability to make the specific change that you've identified. Number 3, who are your allies? Who can you work with to be more effective by increasing both the quality and the quantity of your advocacy? You can't go at this alone. There's very few examples of a lone wolf working completely on their own and making a big change. You're going to need allies in this fight. And then number 4, you kind of synthesize all of that information and develop a real strategy that outlines the action you can take or the actions you could organize in order to make a difference. So to go through each of those quickly in turn, so first of all, what's the problem? And again, I'm highlighting the word specific here. And to give an example, I think it helps to look at an issue and go top down. So you may be really passionate about, for example, health. And you decide, I want to improve global health. I want to get involved in global health advocacy. So to really narrow down onto a problem that you want to focus on, you could say, okay, I want to focus on health. I'm particularly interested in child health and development. Okay, that's a little more specific. Then you can look at all of the different things that are negatively impacting child health and development, and you might be interested, for instance, in working on malnutrition. So you narrowed it down even more. Malnutrition in kids in order to improve global health. But you've still got to get more specific because there's so many components that go into malnutrition. So you might narrow it down to micronutrient deficiency or vitamin A deficiency. You've really got to get down to the level of, this is such a specific problem that I've identified that I've also been able to develop or to identify specific solutions to that problem. Because I think, unfortunately, when we walk around with signs or we post hashtags about very broad social issues and kind of just expressing broad discontent with something, it kind of reduces our effectiveness because it makes us seem less credible. If we're just saying, oh, hunger is terrible and no one should be hungry. If we can't really identify exactly which part of worldwide hunger we want to work on, we're not going to be taken seriously as advocates. So again, getting specific and going from the top down is very important. So as far as what kind of change you want to work on, I think there are 3 main areas, and we'll go through this a little bit more when I show a chart in a second, but there's awareness, there's will, and there's action. So awareness is one kind of change you can work on as an advocate. You can make an audience aware that a problem or potential policy solution exists. And oftentimes that's kind of the crucial first step in advocacy, is just raising the salience of a particular issue to an audience that's poised to make a difference on it. So then step 2, or kind of part 2 of the kind of change, is will. So that's increasing an audience's willingness to take action on an issue. And this goes beyond awareness and actually tries to convince the audience that an issue is both important enough to warrant action and that actions taken will in fact make a difference. So lots of policymakers are aware that children are malnourished, right? But kind of the second level of advocacy is moving them from that awareness to really developing a will and a willingness to take action. And then kind of part 3 is, well, action itself. And I know this can all sound like it's kind of blending together, and maybe these don't seem like important distinctions, but I think the chart that I'll show in a second will make this a little clearer. But action is, moving someone with power to do something differently than they're doing right now. And that's important, to do something differently than they're doing right now, and a good way to frame what action really is. So once you've defined the issue you want to tackle and figured out which solution you want to advocate for, micronutrient deficiency or vitamin A supplementation or whatever issue that really gets you excited, you then need to figure out your advocacy audience. So which institutions and individuals really have the power to make the change that you want. So your audience might be the general public or a specific segment of it. Influencers like the media, community leaders, business leaders, thought leaders, political advisors. Influencers can be really important. Living and working in Washington, D.C., it's incredible to me. I've realized that Washington, D.C. is really run by 26-year-olds. All of my friends who are staff assistants on Capitol Hill working in Senate and House offices, they have pretty incredible amount of power to really take in a lot of information from advocacy groups, from constituents, synthesize it, and present it to their boss, to their member of Congress, in such a way that really kind of moves them to take a specific policy position. So I often joke that, if we could just get all the 26-year-olds who matter in DC in the right place, we could make a lot of change in Congress. So you've got your general public, you've got influencers, and then you've got actual decision makers, elected officials, administrators, bureaucrats, judges in particular, if you're working on changing regulation or something affected by the legal system. And really to figure that out, because that's a lot of different kinds of people, and maybe you don't immediately know who's really the one that you need to be targeting, you can ask a few questions. First of all, who's held accountable for success or failure on this issue? Because here's the thing, most people don't act out of pure altruism. They don't identify an issue and decide to take action and make a change on it simply because it's the right thing to do. Oftentimes, the people that matter the most are the ones who are going to get in trouble if something doesn't go well or doesn't happen, and those might be the people that you need to target. Another question, who controls the money and what impact does that have on the ground? I have become slightly obsessed with the United States appropriations process, which is this crazy process we go through every year to determine how big our federal budget should be and where we should spend it. And not a lot of Americans are really aware of how this process works and all of the points at which citizens like you guys can really intercede and make a difference on that process. So I think figuring out that the United States budget is actually shaped by a relatively small number of people, despite being the largest amount of money spent on anything anywhere in the world. Our federal budget is huge. Really knowing who makes specific decisions in that process can bring you a really long way on making a difference. And then another question to help figure this out, what plans are already in place? And are there specific decision points coming up? And I can't emphasize this one enough because, again, you guys probably aren't going to be able to go at an issue that you care about as a lone wolf, as an independent citizen who's just decided to take action and get involved. It's really important to understand the context of what you're working on and understand everyone that's already working on that issue. I think you'd be shocked that nearly every kind of social global issue that you might care about, there's probably already a dozen advocacy organizations specifically working on that issue. It's a big world with a lot of people working on a lot of things, and to be effective, you've got to understand what's already going on and really what's immediately on the horizon for the issue that you care about. So something that helps a lot when you're trying to figure out what's going on, what's planned, who's working on it, is asking this question, who are your allies? Who can you work with to be more effective by increasing the quality of your advocacy and the quantity? So to increase the quality of your advocacy, which is kind of what I was just getting at, find those organizations working on your specific issue. I work for an advocacy organization, and we are always looking for passionate grassroots advocates that can participate in a campaign that we've put together, put lots of time and energy and resources behind, but we need the people on the ground to kind of carry out those actions and give people power to those campaigns. So to increase your quality, definitely seek out people who are doing similar work and just ask, how can I be involved? How can I help? To increase the quantity of your advocacy, just getting more people involved, find organizations whose issues are related to yours. And this is the thing. All of these issues are interrelated, right? You might not think about it, but malnutrition in kids, for instance, might be directly linked to supply chain issues, to roads and infrastructure, because we can't get safe, healthy food to kids where they need it in times of crisis or in times of a drought. So you might not think that you need to be working with people who are advocates for road safety and improvement, but all of these issues are linked together, and by finding kind of creative allies in places that you might not look, you can really get a lot more people interested in your issue. And, it's always helpful to look for kind of a symbiotic relationship in advocacy. So people whose cause will be furthered by partnering with you and vice versa. Again, most people aren't going to partner or take action just because it's the right thing to do. It's very helpful if you can come to someone and say, hey, by working with me on advocacy for this issue, we're also going to advance the thing that you care about. So finding allies in creative places. So once you've figured out what is the specific change you want to make on a specific problem. Then you figured out who's in charge, who your advocacy audience is, and then you figured out who your allies are who can help you carry out this work. You can really come up with a strategy. So this graph here hopefully will make it a little more clear, some of the things I was talking about before with the different types of advocacy changes you can work on and the different types of audiences who you might be focused on. So if you figure out, again, all of those specific pieces, you can kind of match the audience that you've decided you need to target with the change you're trying to make, and then come up with a specific strategy or action that you need to take. So if you've decided, for instance, that you want decision makers to take action, you might participate in litigation. You might actually sue someone. If you decide that you want to increase the will of influencers, you might do media advocacy or communications and messaging. So there's so many different tactics that all fall under the very broad umbrella of advocacy. And by matching your audience with the change that you're trying to make, you can identify the most effective type of advocacy to engage in. So again, a very helpful framework there, which you can find at evaluationinnovation.org, a great website with a lot of really helpful resources. So another point to this is, I think when we ask a question like, who are we going to mobilize? I always like to say there's three types of people in the world. People who don't think poverty is a problem. Number two, people who think poverty is a problem, and that's basically all they think. And number three, people who think poverty is a problem and actually want to do something to change it. So if you're working on poverty advocacy, you're going to be most effective if you focus on getting people who are already in group 3 to make a difference on your cause by participating in advocacy. And the next thing I'm going to show, I think, is to try to dispel some of the myths about what advocacy is and what it looks like. And this is just a picture I literally found like 5 minutes ago before this presentation. I Googled protest, and this is the first image that came up. And I think this is what a lot of people think of when they hear the word advocacy. Someone protesting in the streets and waving banners and marching with signs. And there is a time and a place for that, and protest movements can be incredibly inspirational and at various points in history have made a big impact, but that's not always what advocacy looks like. Sometimes advocacy is a bunch of people sitting around a conference table hammering out specific language for a United Nations proposal. I mean, some of this stuff does not look exciting if you were to take a picture of it, and yet it can have a huge impact. Oftentimes can have more of an impact than just taking to the streets and waving a sign. So what does advocacy look like? I'm going to show a quick video about my own organization that I think shows that pretty well. And I'm just going to play this for a second, and maybe Jessica or Thabu or someone, if the sound is off, just wave your hand and I'll try to fix it. But I'm just going to play this for right now, and just give me the thumbs up if it's working and the thumbs down, and I'll fix it. So hopefully this 2-minute video works. All right, so I showed that video because, whoops, nope, it's gonna play again. Don't play again. Okay, don't read that yet. I showed that video because we are a global health advocacy organization. That is the heart of who the Sabin Vaccine Institute is and what we do. But a lot of what you saw in that video was people standing at a lectern and talking, or sitting at tables and everyone's wearing a name tag and they've got their notepads out and they're taking notes. And that's, again, a lot of what advocacy sometimes is. Getting smart, passionate people together in a room, having them hash things out, decide, okay, if this is the problem we're focused on, scaling up the rotavirus vaccine, what are the challenges we're facing, what kind of policy needs to be put in place, how do we generate funding, how do we do resource mobilization in order to make sure that those vaccines get out into the field. I think advocacy is a really nuanced thing, and that only some of it might be immediately recognizable to people who don't work in it. So some of the stuff in that video that's more recognizable is, you know, the students holding up signs, and that's the part that I work on, is our student program. But it's all advocacy, and it's all in service of really trying to create broad scale change, and really making progress in vaccine preventable and neglected tropical diseases. So moving on, this is a great graph from my friends at the Partners in Health Engage program, PIH Engage, where they kind of mapped out their campaign structure and how they're building power and really moving towards specific things over time. So they've kind of mapped their level of advocacy power versus the timeline that they're working on, which I think is a really creative way to think about advocacy. And if you're trying to do this, I think a great way to start is by coming up with an advocacy narrative. So when you think in the broad scheme of what you're trying to achieve, you know, what are the plot points that you're going to take, the actions that are going to build eventually towards a resolution, hopefully an advocacy victory. So when you're having a hard time really imagining what this looks like, I think thinking of it in terms of a story can be very helpful. And if you're really stuck, you can try something called an advocacy pre-mortem instead of a post-mortem, where you're at the beginning of what you want to do, and you basically get really down for a few minutes and you brainstorm all of the ways that it could go wrong, or all of the reasons that you're not going to succeed in your advocacy. And sometimes that can be really helpful for putting together a strategy, thinking about a vision, and developing a narrative around advocacy. So a couple more quick things and then we can stop for questions. I really wanted to share a little bit more about how we do advocacy here at the Sabin Vaccine Institute through our N7 campaign. So N7 is our global awareness, advocacy, and fundraising campaign focused on ending the 7 most common neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs, really in the next decade. So if we look at our campaign and what we're trying to do with advocacy, you can really break this down into the parts that we've already talked about today. So first of all, our ask, the specific solution to a specific problem, is that we're trying to bridge the global funding gap for NTD treatment and prevention programs. So basically, we have safe and effective medicines for neglected tropical diseases. We just need to get them to everyone in need, which is 1 in 6 people in the world. 1.4 billion people are infected with a neglected tropical disease. And annually, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars less on these treatment programs than we would need to in order to reach everyone in need. So we're not advocating for new research or new programs. We're simply advocating really for more public support and funding for this problem. So that involves raising awareness, but it also involves creating will, convincing policymakers that NTDs matter and ought to be addressed, and then moving them to take specific actions like making large-scale investments in NTD treatment. So the audience for the campaign, the people that we're actually trying to target and get to take action, are, first of all, the general public. I said that we're a grassroots campaign, and we're very much powered by people like you guys, people like college students, who are working with decision makers, so elected officials, ministers of health, ministers of finance, in both wealthier countries, what we call donor countries, and in NTD endemic countries. So we have 2 audiences, because we've got the audience of people taking action and the audience that we're targeting in order to kind of bring about this large-scale change. Some of our allies, people that we work with to be more effective, are the World Health Organization, different non-governmental organizations involved in NTD treatment, policymakers, university professors and think tanks, and of course other advocacy organizations focused on global health and development broadly. So some of our tactics include public education. You saw very briefly in the video that I showed some celebrities, including like Emily Blunt, reacting to a video. That's a clip from our How to Shock a Celebrity video featuring Emily Blunt, Eddie Redmayne, Tom Felton, a few other pretty well-known celebrities who are kind of seeing footage of neglected tropical diseases for the first time and reacting in a pretty horrified way. And you see their reactions, and then you see the footage that they saw. And at the end, there's a very powerful, clear ask for people to get involved, make a donation, spread the word. And that video has reached more than 7 million people since we launched it. So a pretty huge effort to spread the word about NTDs and get people more involved. So public education, part of what we do, kind of raising awareness. We work on leadership development, again, with our student leaders, getting them to become really articulate and passionate and engaged advocates. So that's also advocacy capacity building. And then we do community organization and mobilization, again, a lot of working with students. And finally, grassroots fundraising to try in our own small way to fill this global funding gap for treatment. So we do a lot of things, targeting a lot of people, and to make that a little clearer, I'll just go more specifically into detail about some of those. So really quick, one thing we've worked on for several years now are making sure that neglected tropical diseases are prioritized in the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, you guys are all involved in the Millennium Campus Network, so I know you are experts on the Sustainable Development Goals and the whole process that's gone into creating them. So we've been engaged with this since day one, since the term Sustainable Development Goals was even floated out there way back in 2011, 2012. So we've run a series of advocacy campaigns targeting both the Secretary General of the United Nations, the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, other country ambassadors. We've focused on a lot of different people in different ways. This is a picture of postcards that students from across the United States wrote to Ambassador Elizabeth Cousins, the United States permanent representative to the United Nations. And these were really kind of moving postcards urging her to fight for the inclusion of NTDs in the SDGs. And we got more than 1,000 students to send these postcards. This is a photo of our old policy director delivering a message directly to the United States mission to the United Nations in New York. This is a letter we got back from the United Nations after one of these advocacy campaigns that pretty clearly called out the impact that this petition that we ran had, on their decision-making process. And then this is some really good news, which is that NTDs were recognized in the Sustainable Development Goals as they were ratified last year. So you have the goal 3 and target 3.3, and it's all about ending various infectious preventable diseases, including neglected tropical diseases. So that was a big win for us to get them in the SDGs. And really the next step, or the last step, is making sure that we're actually kind of implementing this and making the goal and the target that we've secured real. And we're doing that by making sure that there's an indicator for neglected tropical diseases in the Sustainable Development Goals. So if any of you guys met me last year at the Millennium Campus Conference at the UN, we were running this whole campaign and using social media, and these are some of the photos we took there. This process has been extremely delayed. It's the United Nations, so nothing moves quickly. The indicator framework was supposed to be finalized in March, and now we're hearing that it won't be finalized until October, so it's still up in the air, but we've gotten reports back from some pretty important meetings that that we think we're going to get the indicator that we were fighting for. So that's one thing we've worked on. To give you some other examples, these are just some photos that I think express our work. These are students signing an online petition at Northeastern University. They had a great trick of giving out free ice cream, and they just put up signs everywhere that said free ice cream. And then when you walked up to get your free ice cream, they were like, also, will you sign this petition asking Congress not to cut funding for neglected tropical diseases? And most people, first of all, are very in support of that. And second of all, if you've just handed them ice cream, they're even more supportive of whatever it is you're advocating for. So ice cream is like the secret sauce of advocacy, you guys. It's the key. Think if we could just get all policymakers in a room and hash things out over banana splits, we can make a lot of progress. The picture on the top right is us delivering petition signatures to the White House. We were trying to urge President Obama to leave a global health legacy and increase funding for NTD treatment in his last budget as president. This last photo here is just to show you the scope of how many members of Congress we reached during one of our advocacy campaigns. Nearly every member of Congress was contacted in some way, either with a petition signature, a postcard, an email, a tweet. Nearly every member of Congress heard from our supporters about how important funding for neglected tropical diseases is. And then, of course, we're not just like an online Facebook campaign. We do real in-person advocacy as well. So some photos from our most recent Student Advocacy Day. We had a student meet with Elizabeth Warren, casual. All in all, we met with 39 congressional offices to advocate for, again, U.S. contributions to neglected tropical disease treatment programs. This is a map showing all of the offices that we met with, and nearly half the country, again, had either a senator or representative that we met with, and were a really strong voice for this program and this funding. Barbara Bush, the founder of Global Health Corps and the daughter of the founder of the United States Agency for International Development Neglected Tropical Disease Program. George W. Bush founded the program. Barbara Bush is his daughter, and she actually came to our Advocacy Day and gave a really heartfelt and passionate speech about why student advocacy matters and why people should be engaged in this way. So just one more group photo of everyone gathered at Advocacy Day, and then a really nice follow-up we got from Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. He's the co-chair of the Senate Caucus on Malaria and Neglected Tropical Diseases, and we had a coffee meeting with him that morning. He sent us this photo and signed it and said, "Many thanks for your work," right? Because as a member of Congress, he might personally care a lot about neglected tropical diseases, but unless he can go back to his constituents in Mississippi and say, "All right, you guys, are you with me? Do you care about this issue?" He's elected to represent them, so he's kind of gonna get this evidence from people that they care and that they're engaged, and that's part of what we're trying to do as a campaign, is say, yes, there is a constituency that cares about neglected tropical diseases, and we're kind of giving politicians the cover that they need in order to do things that they already wanted to do anyway. That's kind of how politics works. So that's our Advocacy Day. And then, again, just very quickly, one case study. This was this past spring. We were focused on protecting the budget for the USAID NTD program. So, of course, again, we did that through our in-person Advocacy Day. We promoted an online petition and got more than 2,000 signatures on that. We had students write op-eds and letters to the editor in local media. So this is one example from Michigan State. Urge your representative to support the fight against neglected tropical diseases. And I've got to say, you guys, writing op-eds is a really, really effective way to get policymakers on board. Every single senator or congressman here in DC has a staff member whose whole job it is to find any place in the news that their boss, that member of Congress is mentioned, and kind of file it away in order to kind of track public opinion and see what people are talking about. So the more people you have publishing an op-ed and saying, "Hey, representative from Michigan, I want you to support the fight against NTDs," again, we're kind of building this narrative and getting more people aware of the problem. Then we did a Twitter campaign, and this is just a fun example of a tweet from one of our students who met with a representative from Washington State and tweeted at him afterwards this photo, and he actually retweeted it from his personal account because, again, policymakers like to show that they're engaged with the people and that they care. But by retweeting this, Dave Reichert from Washington helped to raise awareness of neglected tropical diseases and our work through N7. So that was what we were doing in the and then we ended with a phone-a-thon to call key members of Congress before votes. And all in all of those things together made a lot of progress. And unfortunately, it's an election year, so the appropriations process is not following what we call normal order. And it's very unlikely that we're going to get like an out-and-out decision on the budget until probably next spring because of how divided things are right now. But we have heard from kind of key allies in DC that our advocacy made a big difference and most likely accomplished our goal of protecting funding for this program. And that's just a photo of one of our student leaders calling the White House to urge President Obama to increase funding for NTDs. So did you guys know that there is a public hotline that you can literally call at the White House and talk to like a real human being about an issue you care about? Little known fact. It's pretty cool. So I'm not going to show this. We don't have time, but there's a great video, and I'm happy to maybe share the link with Raina, and she can send it out. But a video of one of our own student leaders at Rice University giving about a 15-minute presentation on what advocacy means to her and why she decided to get involved as a student. So definitely encourage you to check that out if you have time. So then, very last thing, and then I will hand it back to our other speakers here, is that if you guys have gotten excited on this call and want to get involved in our advocacy, go to the link bit.ly/9-16 action kit, or just Google N7 September Student Action Kit. It'll come up. We have a whole series of resources we've developed. Let me see if I can get this to scroll down in order to explain our current advocacy campaign. Right now, we're focused on the 10th anniversary of the USAID NTD program and getting Congress to really redouble its support for this program, because next Friday is the 10th anniversary, and this is an amazing effort that deserves much, much, much more support and increased investment. And so the Action Kit has links to an op-ed writing guide, links to a multimedia guide about how to create a video or photo project expressing your support for #NoMoreNTDs, and lots of other stuff beside. You can kind of look at the bottom there to see all the resources we have. But as I said earlier, we are here as an advocacy organization to empower you and to give you the tools that you need to speak out and learn about all of these complicated processes that determine what happens and what doesn't happen in the fight against poverty. So if you'd like to get involved, check out that resource. Contact me. Again, I'm happy if Raina wants to share my contact info. I'd love to hear more from you and help you get more involved. And hopefully I've inspired you today to think about advocacy as a potential path, both as a student and then maybe as a career, because if you are good at getting other people to care about things you care about, you're already like 99% of the way there to becoming an advocate. So I will end my screen sharing if I can figure out how to do that. How do I end my screen sharing? This is a good idea.
If you just click on the screen share at the bottom, it should work, I think. Is there something that says screen share, a little green box with an arrow?
Mine looks, I think I have to do pause share. That work? Or stop share. There we go, stop share.
Here's the one. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was incredible. I learned so much, and I think this was also a really incredible way to begin our series, because I think you did a great job of framing for us what are the different ways that we can do advocacy. I think it's very easy to imagine that advocacy looks a specific way. It's standing on the street corner with a sign, and sometimes that is the case, and other times it's, as you were saying, sitting at a conference table having conversations or writing letters or op-eds. And I think that going through those different possibilities is a really incredible way for us to think about how can we as young people make a difference, and when we have a particular issue or challenge we want to address, what are some of the multiple ways that we can leverage our power to make a difference.
Great.
So thank you so much. That was amazing. I really appreciate it. And I'm actually not going to give the rest of my spiel in the interest of time, but I think that this is actually a perfect link to our Global X Factor Award winners, the Gender Network, who are going to be presenting about their campaigns. And over the course of this year, we'll be beginning to expand those into a movement of their own. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I'm sorry, I've actually got to run. So thank you all so much for having me. And I'm excited to hear more about what you guys have planned for the gender campaign. I'll definitely catch the recording after this, but thanks for having me. Get in touch if you have questions, and have a great rest of your conversation tonight. Thank you so much, Emily. And I will share your contact information as you said. And if you'd like to share the video,
Awesome.
just send it to me as well.
Yes, definitely. Okay, have a great night, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so Tabu, I believe that I will be turning it over to you now. Is that accurate? I have you on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Perfect.
Okay, great. All you.
Wait a second. Okay. Presentation. Hi. Are you able to get me? Okay. To start with, I would like to introduce what the Gender Network is and why it was formed. The Gender Network is just a network which was formed this year to unite 4 different girls from 4 different countries fighting against gender inequality. Like, these girls or ladies saw how the gender inequality is being presented in their areas, but their hearts are very moved by fighting for gender equality. Each of these young ladies had the dream of making a world a better place. These ladies envision a world where women have equal rights and equal opportunities just like men, where women can live a life full of dignity, a life full of self-respect, a life where they have everything. The Gender Network is composed of Jessica Russo from the United States, Tanya Radzwa Chinukwi from Zimbabwe, Bero Akopohong from Ghana, who unfortunately could not make it because she has a meeting in Chile. What else? I would like to share this. I don't know if you can see the PowerPoint. Not really good at this. Okay, that's just the Gender Network with Tanya Bero. Like, these women thought the gender equality cannot be achieved if people don't know what these things really are. So I kind of looked into the dictionary and searched through the internet and found some of the definitions of gender equality and gender equity. Like, gender equality as defined by United Nations entity for gender equality is basically refers to the equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men, not to forget girls and boys. Then gender equity requires that girls and women be provided with a full range of activity and program choices that meet their needs, interests, and experiences. Usually when we fight, we're saying we're fighting against gender inequality. Most people say we're going to give the same type of jobs to the men and the women, so that, let's say, for instance, going to dig some big pit, and so that we are equal. No, we need to be given opportunities, or rather experiences, that meet our needs and interests as young people out there. Because if we're given things that, just because we want to be equal, and we're given things that a man can do and a woman can do, a woman cannot do, then they're saying you're supposed to be equal. We're being put on the same on the same position without meeting our needs and interests as young women, as young men, I should say. The other reason why the gender network was formed was to unite ladies, men who have different religious and public beliefs, because like gender inequality all starts with stereotypes, because most of these people out there, they have that belief that, for example, in Zambia right now, most of the house chores, a woman is the one who does it. Who said a woman should always do the house chores? Who said a man cannot do? Like, we have that culture and social belief that we think it cannot be changed, and we think that's the truth. But if we try to address that as young people, if we try to address it, as Emily was just talking about, we try to voice it out as young people, things can change. Well, to move on to my campaign idea, my campaign basically is ending social vices like prostitution by empowering young women in my community. Okay. Sorry. I thought of my campaign like 2 years ago when I moved to Chinsali. That's my area where I'm kind of staying right now. Like, most of the young women there are unemployed. And what usually happens is that when these men who come for constructing, like they're kind of constructing new universities, new roads and everything. So what happens is that these young people here start sleeping. The young people here start sleeping with old men just to get some money to feed themselves, to feed their children. And what usually happens is that these young children, these young women, in case of anything, they get pregnant and they remain with the children. Their children don't also go to school, and everyone in the community, you find a community full of a lot of people without any type of education, and people are, like, the levels of poverty are so high and everything. So I tried to talk to most to what do you call the headmen, and I tried to ask them about everything, and they told me that the main cause of everything is because women are unemployed, and these women, why they are not employed is because, like, they can't do most of the jobs that are offered, like these manual jobs that are offered by constructing companies. And I was like, who said a woman cannot do? Like, usually, even if a woman applies for such kind of job, the women are not permitted, like they're not given the chance. Even if it interests them, they're not given the chance of doing it. So, like, my campaign basically is to come up with, to start a chicken project, like a chicken center where these women are going to produce chicken. They're going to produce chicken. There may be layers of broilers. Then after they sell the chicken, if they earn any profits, they are going to give to any woman who needs to start a new business. And these women, like, the woman should pay back at a later stage with an interest, so that she gives chance for the other women to also start their own businesses. The other line of business I would like these women to engage in is the clothing business. Like, I would like these women to start producing, or rather making some kind of African attires and selling them to the people nearby, thereby raising some money. Because like with African attire, it's not difficult to make them, and these women, that really doesn't require any type of training or anything. It just requires skills, which these women have, which I've already seen that these women already have. Like my strategy, like to move on with this campaign, like first of all, I would like to engage these women by trying to carry out an evaluation on their interests. Like, since there are two types, like there are two lines of businesses which are going to form their interests. If they're interested in the chicken production, they go to the production part, the chicken production part. If they're interested in the clothing area, they go to that part. So that if they're interested in the clothing area, they go to that part, so that they produce and do what they like. And with this, they can form their own businesses and also make their children, which are not going to school, go to school, and thereby ending or preventing most of the diseases that are like being presented in the community. And I think the prostitution is like, it's really an obstacle to the development of the community, because like most people in the community like the community can't develop, because usually you find that there are people who are sick, people who can't go for work because they have this, like people are always giving excuses, and other people think that the money earned in prostitution is better than the going to work. It's to do some manual works and everything like that. But I think if I change the mentality of them, this is through some of the workshops that I'm going to offer, everything is going to be okay, and the community is going to develop, because if you empower these women, everything will go well. Then I want to focus on these women, because like usually when you tackle the women, their children are also going to what? They're also going to benefit from that. Not just their children, also the community, the headmen, everyone is going to benefit from it, because like women are so committed and everything. And how is this peace building? Basically, like ending prostitution is kind of peace building, because what usually happens, there are some other people in the community who don't indulge themselves in prostitution, I should say, and these people, like these people who don't indulge in prostitution, they've started, like they kind of hate the people who indulge in prostitution, and the community is kind of divided, because there are these people who are into prostitution and everything like that, and that these people can't talk to them because of that, not like judging them from that and everything like that. So just bring the community together, because like if these women are employed, the community will come together and work together, and everything will be okay. Then to end everything, to end my part, I've formed some Facebook pages, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, which you can follow me if you want, where I'm going to be discussing some of the issues are gender related. And right now, I think I'd like If there are any questions, you can ask me. Then I would give chance to Tanya or Jessica to phone. Stop share.
Thank you so much, Tabu, for giving me the opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya Zachinyukwi, and I'm from Zimbabwe. Basically, my campaign is trying to address commercial sex working among teenagers in Zimbabwe through education and vocational skills training. Of recent, poverty has been the main cause of the increase in number of the female school dropouts. And you find that due to poverty, most of these teenagers, they have dropped out of school and are joining commercial sex working. And because of the survival instinct, the survival instinct tends to overpower their dignified livelihoods. And so they tend to get engaged in prostitution at a mere cost of 50 cents per session. And if you're trying to put a meal on the table, that statistically means that the girl child needs to at least sleep with 10 men in order to put a meal on the table for the whole family. And when I see such a situation, I get to analyze that we are not only talking about the girl child getting into prostitution, but we are talking about the transmission of HIV. We are talking about the spreading of STIs, and this is a doom to the life of the girl child. So we also have the fact that because of starvation, my country, Zimbabwe, was recently hit by El Nino, so there is some drought. Therefore, some parents are forcing the girl child to drop out of school in order to join prostitution so that they could provide for the whole family. And that's where we find that gender inequality comes and plays a role. The parents choose the girl child over the boy child. The boy child remains in school whilst the girl child drops so that she becomes the breadwinner for the whole family. And therefore, I came up with this campaign in order to resuscitate the self-worth and value of a woman, in order to sensitize the people that the education of the girl child is important, in order to develop a community, in order to make the health services better, in order to ensure that the future generations would have better lives. We need to educate the girl child. Through the education of the girl child, we are breaking the cycle of poverty. I would like to say, Nelson Mandela once said, education is the tool that we can use to empower the people. The empowerment that we need in the girl child lies in her education. That is why I am advocating for the education of the girl child. Let us take the girls back to school, and would wonder, how are we going to take back the girl child to school? So I came up with the strategy of starting the chicken projects, but these chicken projects will start them at their schools. So this means it's a community building activity whereby we are involving the parents of the girls who have dropped out of school, as well as the head teachers at those schools, so that they can start this chicken project. They raised enough money to send the girl child back to school, as well as to sustain the girl child, the whole family, so that the girl child will not go back onto the street to look for money in order to take care of the family. And also through this chicken project would form associations in the community whereby we start financial literacy among the people. It is important the community members get to know how to save money, how to spend money after saving. So through that financial literacy, the community members will get to know how to spend the money they will get from the chicken projects in a way that is sustainable, in a way that will keep the project afloat, and also in a way that will help them come up with more ideas which can generate income in the community. And pertaining to the issue of gender, the role of gender in peace building, I'm going to share an example of Nepal. Nepal was in an armed conflict for about 10 years, and that conflict stopped in 2006 by the signing of an agreement. And that brings me back to a flashback of what really happened during that war conflict. You find that when that war conflict was taking place, gender violence became a plight of the women and girls. Rape, sexual violence, and torture were widespread. Trafficking of women and girls who later became slaves, because these women and girls were taken to places where they thought they were safe. They were not war zones, like they were free zones, but actually they were being taken to those areas so that they will be taken in as sex slaves. And also the girls who they've become now the sex slaves, that meant that their educational opportunities were also reduced. And you find that upon having suffered all this, the women, and after even signing this agreement, women still continued to suffer. And even if the government had signed and agreed that there will be at least 33% representation of women in the parliaments, in the councils, and in all judiciary systems, this hasn't been really put into place. This hasn't really been put into practice. It is something that has just been written on paper, but is not being done. So we cannot achieve peace if we are not including the women. We need to take peace building, conflict resolution to the next level, whereby we are involving the women in the negotiation process. We are involving the women in the decision-making process. And I believe that education plays a huge role, because we cannot talk of a woman taking a good decision without education. She needs an education in order to understand the pros and cons of a situation that they are trying to tackle. So when it comes to peace building, we also have to put into consideration that education indeed plays a huge role. Therefore, in order to have our women taking part in the negotiation process, in the peace building process, we need to educate them. We need to give them that education so that they can be able to make decisions that will make progress within their communities. And also, I would like to add on that if we are to talk of peace building and conflict resolution, we also need to focus on the men's role in advancing that. We have to shift our mindset from the fact that men are the perpetrators of violence, men are the perpetrators of sexual abuse, men are the perpetrators of all the evil doings that we have in our society. We need to view men as the agents also for conflict resolution. We also need to view men as the agents for peace building. How are we going to have them as the agents for peace building? That is when we start to say men are there to support women in the participation during the decision-making process. If we call upon men to take part in the decision-making process, if we call upon men to also support their women, they are living in the house, to take part in those decision-making process, this would help us advance in conflict resolution, and this would also help us advance in peace building. And to close up, I'm just going to say, gender equality is a human issue, and it affects all of us. And so does conflict resolution and peace building. In order to achieve sustainable peace, we have to ensure that both men and women are included in the design and management of peace building activities. We need to make commitments to make gender equality a reality through conflict resolution and peace building. And all that can be brought into action if we get to educate the women we have in our communities, if we get to educate the girls we have in our communities. And I think Jessica Russo has more to add on.
Okay, so I really don't know how to switch the screen into full mode, but we can actually get started to see what my campaign's about. So my campaign is basically about ending sexual assault on college campuses. It's an issue that affects so many people today, and we are just shedding some, even like a little bit of light on it with the Brock Turner case. But it's still an issue that needs to be rectified, needs to be addressed, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with my campaign. My campaign is called Silence to Sound. Silence to Sound is basically a campaign started by Howard University, sponsored by MCN. And basically what we do, we want to, through dialogue and advocacy, we want to spread awareness of sexual assault on college campuses, because a statistic according to the U.S. Bureau of Justice in 2016, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 16 men experience sexual assault while in college. And that's also spanning out to not only rape, but sexual harassment as well. So we really want to target like from freshmen to seniors in college, because again, this is an issue that is going on for decades long. It's very prevalent in almost, I think, every college campus, we could actually say, and bring to that conclusion. So basically what we want to do, we set up a website. It's in its final phases. You'll see in the coming weeks. It'll be silencetosound.net, where we will have a database. We're comprising a database from everywhere. We're starting in the United States, and then resources that are available to college students at their campuses who have been victims of sexual assault, or people who actually who have family members, anything, like they have friends, college, anyone can really look at these resources and see how they can help this person who actually was a victim of sexual assault. But we also want to make the clarification that they're not only victims, but they could also be survivors, because they can overcome this, that they can cope with this. And we want to give them the starting instructions and to help them to start on the journey to overcoming the situation that they experienced. So basically the database is we're starting in Massachusetts, because I go to College of the Holy Cross. So we're starting in Massachusetts because that's where the school is located. And then we are, in fact, branching out to other states. We are branching out to New York already. But what we really need, and if you would love to come on board, we would like people from other states sending us resources about their particular college campuses. We're going to be having a team being assembled, which are called like research specialists. So they'll be featured on our website as well, because this campaign, in fact, would not be possible without everyone's help, because my team and I cannot do this alone. We also set up a Facebook page where we'll be making conversation about the recent Brock Turner case. and all sexual assault policies that are already enacted in the United States, and how we can change them and what's wrong with them and what we see in our interpretation of it. So if you go to Facebook and you type in Silence the Sound campaign, you will see the page pop up. And if you like what we're doing and like our mission, go ahead and like the page. We will also set up a Twitter account, which is Silence the Sound, and then capital letters UN, and you could also follow that as well. We're making like recent polls and like, how do you think the Brock Turner case went out? Do you have any sexual assault policies on your campuses? Would you like to be changed? And then pretty much we're also going to be branching out to other campuses where we would love to have like other, at their campuses, other clubs to really get involved in this, because we're already working with a bunch of clubs on our campus, one of which is the Women's Forum, where they had a discussion about the Brock Turner case, because and sexual assault policy on campus and how everyone is handling throughout the United States so far. So that's just like some of the things we're doing now, because this is an issue that, really needs to be rectified. And we got to find solutions to really fight against this epidemic that is occurring in our society. Because the biggest thing is, like, yes, we do have big organizations that are really trying to advocate for the end of sexual assault, but I think it's the college students who are really going to make this happen. It's going to be us that are really going to be like the grassroots to really end this, because it has to start with us. Like, we're going to be the architects of a better and brighter future. We're going to be the next generation who is really going to set the tone of sexual assault on college campuses. So we could also tell if we had little siblings about it, so they're just going to be more and more aware in how to cope if they were sexually assaulted, but also have ways to have talk about preventative measures and how we can stop it from happening. So those are just a little few things that we are in fact doing. So it is based on gender inequality, because again, women are more targeted than men, but we also don't want to forget, because men are in fact affected by sexual assault as well. So we're helping pretty much both sides of both genders and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much what the campaign's about. Again, if you like what we're doing, go to the Facebook page, Twitter page. We also have an Instagram, which is Silence the Sound campaign as well. So you can go like them, see what we're doing. And our email is silencethesound@gmail.com. If you would like to be one of our research specialists, submitting any resources that we can put on the website, and just check out for the coming weeks of that website that's going to be up. And you're going to see all of my executive team and what we'll be doing so far and what we are going to be doing going forward. So yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Any question that you'd like to ask Jessica, Tanya, or anything that you'd love to contribute? Tanya, anything for us? Vivian, do you have anything for us? Okay.
Not really. You guys have covered everything.
I have a question. So you're all doing different kinds of work, and you've identified some very real challenges. So given what Emily presented earlier about advocacy, where do you see your projects fitting into that kind of trajectory? Like, what are the ways in which that you're thinking about advocacy work as it relates to your campaigns? Does that make sense?
Jessica, would you like to answer that? Or?
Oh yeah, of course, I'll answer it. I was just waiting to see if anybody else would answer first. Okay, so basically, advocacy going forward, again, most colleges do not have great sexual assault policies. Right now, there's so many loopholes that people can get out of it, and they won't be charged at all, the assaulter. So one of the things that maybe my campaign could do going forward once we have, more backing and stuff like that, is really like having the students that are part of this organization to really go up to their administration and say, is there any way that we can change these kind of policies? And then even like looking at the trajectory forward, maybe going to our local senator's office and really lobbying to say, okay, like in our state, we need a better sexual assault policy that really go ahead and brings more awareness to sexual assault and really reduce those loopholes and give colleges really like a stringent standard where they have to uphold. And if they don't uphold, then there's repercussions associated with it. Because again, there's not a lot of stringent policies that each state has against like sexual assault, and there's really no compensation right now that's in effect that helps sexual assault victims. So that would be like one of the things that we could lobby for and really help with sexual assault and its prevention.
And Tanya? Maybe.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I would say that what Emily said, I found it as if it was applying, like totally everything is actually applying to the kind of campaign I am having, because I think in order to take the girls out, like off the streets, they need to have that awareness of the impacts, the consequences of what prostitution has. So I think basically for me, in order to really start this campaign at grassroots level, I would also need to like use the same kind of plan that she had, whereby I start with the awareness within the community, awareness among the girls. And from there, that's where you can see, because it's only through maybe sharing stories, telling stories about what happened to other people who were having the same lifestyle as they're currently having, that will bring a change in the lives of others. So I believe by first having that sensitization, that's when we can see people or the parents who are willing to take their girls off the streets and take them back to the class. And I believe like through that will, that's when we also get to see the parents who are really into getting involved in the chicken projects, in the different income generating projects that we will try and do in order to raise enough money to send the girls back to school. And also pertaining to Emily's presentation, I found it really relevant to my campaign when she was talking about the like having allies who are also on the same line as the one that you have, because I have seen that there are different gender equality movements in my country currently. And for me, in order to get to the root of the problem, in order to be able to tackle this problem that we have right now, or rather this challenge, I need to partner, to connect with people who are already on the ground, people who now have the know-how of how it is going in the country, people who have the reality of what is really happening on the ground. So I found that as an important takeaway point on partnering with the organizations, be it non-profit or governmental organizations, which are also into gender equality, into girl-child education, and also the fact that we really need to like recognize the people who are on the ground. For example, for my campaign, I think in order to make it a success, I need to also have that communication line with the headmen, with the community leaders, as she was saying, that there is also that need to partner with the community leaders. And I believe that through that, really we can have a good advocacy on girl child education over prostitution.
Hey guys, can you all hear me?
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, like the way in which gender inequality presents might be different, but our hearts are the same. Like people who are affected, we have the same hearts, and when we're affected, we feel our feelings like they're they're the same. Like so, like we have identified the problem, and we have to know who our allies are. And she talked about having the quality and quantity. Like the quality, we need to choose the people who are in the same line with, and which I think for me, I was thinking of working with Comfort, which is just like a non-governmental organization that campaigns for female education. And usually these women, I think this will help in my situation. And the other thing is that the quantity of the allies, like I believe I cannot do this alone, but with the help of everyone, I would be able to do it. I think advocacy is very important because like we can't voice out if we don't feel like we don't put ourselves in, like we don't know what problem we're addressing. And I would like to ask Reina if she has anything to say to each and every one of us, but I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming, for participating, I should say. Then, Reina, are you still there?
Yes, I'm
Reina?
here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Did you want to lead a conversation, or were there things that you wanted to continue discussing as a group?
Like, if you have anything to say.
About what you were just discussing, or more broadly?
Yeah, and about what we're discussing.
Oh, no, I appreciate that you all answered my question so intentionally. I think your campaigns really are addressing many different angles of advocacy, and I agree that looking at these broader challenges of global gender inequality through different particular lenses is a really interesting and important way to address the deeper issues. So I appreciate all of your sharing your responses. Yeah. So
Hey guys, can you all hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Vivian.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for having me. my basic 2 cents about this is like, yes, we want to partner with other organizations and stuff, but I will tell you from my own experience and in the campaigns that I've run, to be like, we need to be careful. We need to be careful about like the organization that we are trying to partner with, because I've had this problem in time past where I've tried to work with a way larger organization that did similar things as I did, and they just basically tried to like swallow up my campaign and like make it subordinate to thing for me when I started working on my own campaign was I thought everybody just came and we like volunteered and we all got together, shared ideas and all of that stuff. But that's the ideal. But the real thing is we're working in the real world, and in the real world, in as much as it's an NGO, there are people that this are their legit careers and jobs and whatnot. They're not in school. This is what they do, and so like we just need to be careful about when partnering. All your make sure you state out everything like you want out of the partnership. Make sure each side like agrees to that statement. Like just have at least one legal documentation of like, okay, this is what we have agreed on. Even if it's after a face-to-face conversation, you can email them and be like, hey, that we agree on the, so in case, I'm not praying for any problems to happen in the future, but in case there's any problems with this, because sometimes you just can never anticipate, because I've seen situations where the bigger organization just kind of takes your idea way, but it was mine and no one really involved me. And like, like the NGO world is so it's so weird sometimes, because like it's not like you're gonna go sue them for like plagiarism or something, because it's still the same area or something. So it's their word versus your word, their resources versus your resources. So just so we can all make sure we don't get caught up in NGO politics, like we have to go through this and this and this and that, because that has been for me, in my personal experience, that's been a problem. So I just wanted to put that out there so we don't like run into that. We ideally want this to go well for everyone, because everyone's campaign is so amazing. The chicken projects, I was also going to ask like like the funding, even though it is cheap, but another problem is I'm speaking from my own experience. A lot of times, like you want to do all of these things, and then it's like budget. But budget makes you like realize stuff real quick. It's like my budget doesn't cover that, man. So we have to leave this out, leave this out, leave this out. So it's just for us to remember that in as much as like being advocacy and all that stuff, we need to make funding like a big part of this, because I'm all for this, but we need money. So that's basically just what I wanted to say. So if anyone else has anything.
Thank you very much. I think Tanya has something to say about it, because what she just talked about is what she was telling me the other day. I don't know. Tanya, would you like to say something? Tanya?
Hello. Thank you so much, Amara. It's actually so true what you have mentioned, because it happened to me. I managed to get into contact with someone, but in order for the person to fund me, I had to like have my campaign idea swallowed, and then we take her idea. So I was like, it's really hard because we're kind of having different objectives there. So I tried my best to negotiate a way whereby we could try and complement each other. But in the end, it seemed that the person wanted me to, like, with my team, to somehow work on her objective so that we could get the funding. So, like, really, it's important to keep an eye on whom you're partnering with, because in the end, you end up like losing the whole vision that you have whilst grabbing someone else's vision. And also, on the thing about the funding, I think like it's really important when like doing this kind of project to take into consideration the funding, because that's one of the challenges I'm currently facing. Because we might, like, when you talk about we are going to raise the chickens and everything, like, when I thought about that idea, I was like, it's just that easy. We get the chickens, we get started. But when I really got onto the ground, then I was like, wow, now I need the funding. But where to get it, that's the biggest question. And that's the hard nut to crack. So I really think that was quite a good advice for us, to be careful when it comes to partnership, to be careful when it comes to the funding, and then how you put your budget proposal and everything else. I really think it was quite informative. Thank you so much, Amara.
Jessica, do you have anything? She ran away. Okay.
Hi. Yeah, like, let's see, am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. Okay. So basically what you were saying is absolutely right. Like, you don't want your idea to be like sucked down, like pretty much like grabbed from you and like taken to like another. That's why I'm very hesitant on who I'm gonna like. That's why I'm starting with the clubs on campus. Like, that's one of the biggest things, because those are your allies in the end. So like that's like one of the things that we're trying to go for, because like going towards like the bigger organizations, like they're like, okay, you're now going to be a product of us, and you're not going to be Silence the Sound anymore, you're going to be our campaign. And so, but we really want to have that distinction that that we are different from them, we are doing different things, and just because like we are partners does not mean that, you know, you take an idea that is not necessarily yours. But again, like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because they are helping you out, but you wanna set yourself apart from them. Like, yes, we are helping each other, but my campaign and your campaign is two different entities. So that's like the main, like, I guess, statement between the two. So yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Like, don't let somebody take away your thunder, as my as my family would say. So
Okay. Thank you very much. It was an honor having you, Amara. Vivian. Looks like someone I know. And anyone else? There's Arena.
What is it that you're hoping for? You're hoping for a final thought, or you're hoping for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I can certainly wrap up with my own final thoughts, but I think that it should be for you, for all of you. So I suppose what I will do is just note that the next session is going to be October 18th. Actually, I think I have it up on my screen. I can share it. Well, maybe I can. Let's see. My internet connection has been a little weak, but our next webinar is going to be October 18th at 10 a.m. And I hope that you will all join us. If you are interested specifically in the gender forums, the next one is November 17th. But I hope that, that this has been a good opportunity to start to learn a little bit about the campaigns, but it also won't be the only way that you're engaged. So Jessica and Tabu and Tanya and also Beryl, who's not on the call today, I know they would all love to connect with you even after. And perhaps I'll turn it back over to you, and maybe you can each say, what is one action that someone can take to get involved in your campaign in the next few weeks? So maybe each of you can say one action that people can take to get involved in your campaign or in the issue that is related to it.
Tanya, would you love to start?
Okay, thank you so much. I would say that I'm going to start a page on Facebook, and it's called the Girl Power Initiative. So I'm calling upon all of you to just send your commitments on how we can advance girl child education, so that at the same time we can drive towards a gender equality community, a gender equality society.
Jessica, your last thoughts?
Okay, so pretty much how you can get involved in our campaign is we do have a series of social media accounts that are up that I've mentioned before. So if you like what we're doing, follow us on Facebook. We'll pretty much be telling you what we are going to do, what we are doing, pretty much what discussions we're having on campus, on my campus especially. So that'll be one thing. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is up. We're getting a Snapchat shortly, which is pretty good. But also, if you would like to be one of our research specialists, definitely send us an email, silencethesound@gmail.com, with your college campus, and we'll be into contact with you to see what kind of resources you have on campus, because we want to have an accurate and concrete database that we're going to go up and encapsulating all like resources that you have on campus, from the medical care that's near you to your public safety numbers, any hotlines you have, counseling centers, so all of those resources. So once you email, my team and I are pretty good at getting emails back to everyone. So within like 2 or 3 or 4 hours, we'll definitely get back to you and see how you can become one of our research specialists that for your designated campus. So, yep.
From my campaign, how you could support us is just by firstly liking our Facebook page, which is Ending Prostitution Through Entrepreneurship, and also help us share the page to anyone that might be interested. You just share on your Facebook page, your Twitter account, or anywhere. Then the other thing is that I'm kind of urging each and every one of us to fight for gender equality in any way that we might fight for it, but let's fight for it. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for leading our first webinar. This is an excellent beginning to a year of conversations about gender inequality, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that conversation with all of you. And I added each of your contact information to the group chat, so if anyone wanted to contact you, they can. But you can also all contact me. I'm just going to add my email address as well. If you're interested in learning more about Millennium Campus Network or our programs, if you want me to send you the schedule, just let me know. But thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, if not before. All right, and with that, I'm going to end the meeting. Unless there's anything else that any of you want to say. Anything else? No? Okay, I think my computer froze. All right. Thanks, everyone.